Today on the Relationship Renovation podcast, we talk all about body language and body awareness.
Sitting opposite sides, one's right up against the sofa back, the other's like leaning towards the door like I'm getting the heck out of here.
And we talk about the messages that you might be sending your partner that you might not be aware of. Your body language tells me get away, of you like looking at me like you're in this like deer
freeze,
frozen, you're not safe. And Tarah talks really in depth about how you can use an awareness of what's going on in your body to create really vulnerable connecting moments with your partner. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Relationship Renovation podcast. My name is EJ Kerwin.
And I'm Tarah Kerwin.
And we want to just let you know, as always, that we are, we're therapists. We are a married couple. We've been together about 13, 14 years. Approximately in the neighborhood of 13 to 14 years.
A big reason for this podcast this week is that the trend for me with my clients and couples this week has been a lot about body language. And I think sometimes that can kind of go under the radar because we're so lost in our thoughts and, coming back with our dialogue that we forget about how important our body language is and that people can read our body language without saying a word and you could feel safe or not safe. And this week I had couples come in and they're like sitting opposite sides. One's right up against the sofa back. The other's like leaning towards the door like I'm getting the heck out of here. And so I said, before we even get into any content or process today, I'm going to explore what's happening in your bodies right now before we even have a dialogue.
I mean, this has been a huge thing for us. Like, I think a lot of times we focus on my body language but I think with us, it's because I'm less expressive verbally. And you are really tuned into my body language and my eyes. And like, we've gotten into really difficult moments because you're just like, something just happened. Like you'll see something in my body or in my eyes that makes you feel not safe, makes you feel frustrated with me. And it'll be, for me, it can be like, so like frustrating. So I'm like, I feel like then I can't move, but I do. I think we all express so much without words.
And it can be subtle or it can be traumatic, like slam on the doors. But to me, what is the most important message today is that I can't navigate your body language, but I can navigate mine and pay attention to it. But we don't usually pay attention to our body and what's happening and the sensations in it. Maybe we are if we're doing a yoga class, Pilates, and like my thigh is about to fall off. But in heated moments when we're uncomfortable, our thoughts take over and it's rare that we're like, what's actually happening in my body? And I think paying attention to that helps your nervous system regulate your body and your emotions before you're going to go into a difficult discussion or heated conflict. Because when your body's already, your heart's racing, you're tense, you're grasping, your feet are clung to the floor, your nervous system's already in flight, fight, freeze, and you guys hadn't even talked yet. So the chances that you guys are going to get through a conversation and heal, repair, whatever, big zero, right? Big zero.
I mean, I think this is so important because I know in working with individuals over the years, especially individuals who struggle to really know what they're feeling or speak about it and communicate with their partner, that the body, I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday about this, a client, that like what you can do is if you don't know exactly what's going on or your partner is asking you to be more expressive, the first thing you can do is just become aware of what you're feeling in your body, your positioning. Like I definitely feel like when we're in times of like difficult moments between the two of us, like I feel this like energy where I'm like pulling back. It's like before I even notice it, I'm like kind of trying to get out of the room,
Yeah.
and then you notice that. And so,
our bodies are mirrors, our nervous systems are mirrors. And even if we don't have words, we will react to what that feeling of the other person's nervous system is.
Well, and I think that this is like an incredibly important point is that, so like, if you use that instance of me, if like when we're in conflict, that I start to sort of like fade back and almost lean away from you, right? Now, I might not notice it because I'm not looking at myself and I may not be paying attention to what's happening in my body, but Tarah sees me because I'm in front of her, like, and then vice versa. And so oftentimes there's like a really big disconnect because our partner sees that something's happening for us, but we don't see it ourselves. And then when our partner tells us, I think you're being defensive, or I think that you don't want to talk right now, or whatever, then we're like, no, that's not true. Like, I'm fine. I'm standing right here. And meanwhile, she sees I'm leaning backwards.
Yeah.
I am sitting here unaware of it. And so it's so important to be aware of how body language is impacting you and your partner's ability to communicate.
Just another example, because it could not even be during an uncomfortable time. It could be like in the morning, I'm like trying to get everything ready and I'm just like busy, and you'll come up to hug me and I grasp because I'm like, I don't have time for that.
No, you shock.
I shock. Well, because I'm like, I was in my momentum of like getting these dishes done. Like, I don't have time for this hug. And if I'm not really careful, if that happens and continues to happen, you're just not even going to try to hug me anymore because you're going to have this like,
well, because the body language to me is like oftentimes like, because this is, and it affects so many dynamics, right? Because there's like, we have a dynamic in our house where the mornings are really kind of can be very crazy. And there's music playing and the kids are running around, the dogs, and Tarah will be like, I get really overwhelmed in those moments and I need you to really help me, right? And so to me, helping is like, oh, maybe if I go up and connect with her or give her a hug or something, right? So she's told me she needs this help. My interpretation of it is like, go to her, connect with her. But then I go to do that and then you like startle response or like, what? And the body language is get away from me. And so then it really gums up what I'm trying to comfort you. You said you want comfort, but your body language says the exact opposite. I don't want comfort.
Because my body language is already in flight, fight, freeze, because now I'm over functioning, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overstimulated. So now, right, recently, I can't say always, but I'm learning because I do a lot of somatic work in my own therapy. When I'm doing dishes, I'm trying to be really calm in my body. When you come up and approach me, I'm definitely aware of like the grasping. Is it grasping because I'm uncomfortable right now with touch, or is it grasping because like we have to be out of here in 10 minutes? But I'm learning how to like calm my body down more, and it's so important. And even in all of my sessions now, I'm doing a lot of more somatic work before we even get into dialogue because even yesterday I was working with an individual client and she's got significant PTSD and she's very activated right now in flashbacks. And we were talking and her leg was just going a mile a minute. And we were talking about something really unnerving and scary for her. And I was like, hold on, is it okay if we stop? And I really want to let's just focus on what's happening with your leg right now. And she was like, oh, I didn't even notice it. I was like, oh, no, totally. So we brought awareness, and within 5 minutes, it's not about changing anything. That's the thing. Well, maybe we can even go through like a little exercise. It's not about changing it. It's about paying attention, because after about 2 minutes of her paying attention, she noticed that the restlessness started to calm down. Then she put both of her feet on the ground, and then she regulated. And then we were able to go into this processing of certain trauma flashbacks in a way that was very calming instead of doing it when you're already in your body's in flight, fight, or fight. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, because what I heard there was you saying that sometimes our body is sort of going against what we think is going on, or maybe even what we want to be going on, because again, coming back to us in the kitchen, like you want to be soothed, you want support, but oftentimes your body doesn't say that,
Mm-hmm.
but you may not even know that, right? And so it also, if we begin to have a conversation within our relationship of like, hey, let's pay attention to the messages that we're giving
Yes.
each other non-verbally.
Yes.
And then let's find a time to talk about that at a different point, because then we can strategize. Because I can say, well, Tarah, you say you want my support in the mornings, but yet when I go to give you that support, your body language tells me get away. Like I can even think of like, I have very clear like memories of you like looking at me, like me trying to talk to you, and you like literally like looking at me like you're in this like deer
Freeze.
frozen, you're not safe look. And so I can tell you that, and then you can say, so I can say, hey, Tarah, what is going on for you?
And that's when I will, again, go somatically first, because I know that, right, our body keeps the score. It's a great book, by the way. It's awesome. But like our body is amazing. It knows everything. And if we really pay attention to what's happening, it could be a tingling in the fingers. It could be a cold in the feet. It could be a warming in the chest. It could be a tightness in the gut. It will tell you a lot if you pay attention. And if you can go there first, then your thoughts are going to have more clarity, because now your nervous system and your chemicals, they're not saying I'm in danger here. My body is not tense, or I'm going to wait until my body is more calm until we have this conversation. And it can just give you so much information. It's like you're going to therapy with your body for yourself, and you don't have to pay for it.
So I ask you, I say, hey, I notice this in your body. I notice this, I'm perceiving this. Then you're telling me that your process is you're going to
Somatically first.
So you're going to pay attention to the body.
Mm-hmm.
Then what are you going to tell me? What are you going to tell? What are they going to tell their partner?
I think it just depends after I understand what's happening. It could just be like, hey, my body's feeling really rushed right now. So my thoughts were just like, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. I'm really working on recognizing the body language I'm giving off to you, because I really do want you to come close in those moments. Because that's the thing. When we pay attention, it changes. It goes away. It shifts, right? If we don't pay attention, it doesn't shift. It doesn't go away. Hence, looping negative thoughts of danger, threat, tension, whatever it might be. And so it just starts to create these new dynamics because it's already shifting in your body.
Yeah. And if there's a difficult moment between you and your partner, you bring body language into it. So you ask what's going on. Your partner, you give them the space to reflect and be like, well, I was like, my shoulders were tense and I was overwhelmed, I think, because of this, and this. And so therefore, when I looked at you, my eyes went wide open and I was like, what? Because I was sort of startled, right? They give you this information, and then it gets you as the person on the other side out of making assumptions, because a lot of times our assumptions, we're interpreting nonverbal data, so our assumptions are often wrong. So in the kitchen, my assumption is she doesn't want my support. My assumption is like I'm a bad person, I'm a threat to her, right? Like that's what it feels like when I see that. But she's telling me, and I'm trusting her, it's different. It's not that. And then I then can be more understanding. I can be more empathetic. I don't have to guess. Like she can give me some information that helps me understand what's going on for her.
I think what's important to say here too is like some people are really good at understanding what's happening in their body. I was horrible at it. Like I remember 10 years ago, I had a therapist like, what color is that? How does it feel? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't do somatic stuff. Like, and so there's this, yes, that sounds great for a couple to be able to do this, but I also think it's a skill that you keep getting better at individually So it'll develop into that. Like I'm much better now at being like, oh, wow, like I'm just feeling like empty here. Or I'm feeling like, for me, when I get overstimulated, I get this like heaviness in my head. And like you can even see it in my eyes. And now I know the minute it happens, I'm like, oh, I'm over functioning. This is not good. Now I will build resentment. And so I know how to take care of myself. I know how to relax my body into it. But you have to do practicing individually too, because it can be really like, I mean, I've asked so many people, where do you feel that in their body? And they look at me like, what are you talking about? That is so woo-woo.
Yeah.
But if you really pay attention and you don't try to change it, right? Let's say I'm having anxiety, and it can be really uncomfortable to sit with, and it actually can get worse before it shifts into a more calm place. And my heart's starting to race, or I'm getting a dry mouth, and I'm just starting to notice that. We'll want to go to like, oh, stop that. Oh, I don't want this to happen. But the whole idea is you don't want to change anything. You want to just be so curious about how it's manifesting, right? Does it have heat to it? Does it have cold to it? Does it have a shakiness to it? Does it have colors to it? There's so many different ways to explore how it's showing up in your body. Does it have a hollowness? Does it have a pressure? Does it have a heaviness? Where do I feel it at most of the time? And you'll notice like loneliness shows up more in like the heart and stomach area. Anxiety shows up more usually in your head. Numb can feel like your circulation literally stops in your fingers and your toes because your body is saying, I'm frozen. And so your body reacts to that chemically. Like it's just amazing. And then once you pay attention, you'll start to feel the blood flow again. Your heart rate will start to come down again. The pressure will start to relieve itself.
So I think there's a big, like, we want to sort of connect two dots here, right? Because we're sort of talking about two separate things that are very related in the context of a relationship and in personal growth, right?
Right. Yes.
And one is body language, that we send messages to the outside world, to our partner, to our kids, to our coworkers, to everybody. We send nonverbal messages through our body, right? And the dot that Tarah's really connecting is that those messages are based upon sort of the body's expressions of what we're feeling. And that what we want to do is we want to become more aware of what our own body is telling us. And that she's talking about these like sort of exercises of awareness, of noticing where in my body is my attention drawn, and finding ways to describe it, and then understanding what that feeling might be so you can express it verbally, right? And so we want you to both be aware that there's a process of what's something that's going on in your body that can be a lot of really great information, but also being aware as a partner that that perhaps you could engage in a conversation with your partner that helps each of you understand more of what's happening in each other's bodies, especially in difficult moments.
And what's really cool about this, because I've taken many couples through somatic experiencing to understand what's happening. Why is their body on guard? Why are they defending themselves from their partner? What's really happening, right? And when you can, without getting into the dialogue of their relationship or anything, it's at the very core, a fear of rejection, a fear of not being good enough, a fear of losing control or feeling powerless. And couples can get to that in like one session, like that they're both really feeling so vulnerable, like the feeling of rejection, but they don't know quite how to be with that. So their body's defending against that because it's a super vulnerable feeling. Now I have to protect myself. But when you can get to that softness and what your body language is doing to defend yourselves, and then you're like, oh my gosh, like we're actually feeling the same thing, and our bodies were saying something totally different. Yeah. We didn't even know. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I've seen melting into each other because of it. They didn't even know that they were on guard.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like, it's a totally different skill set that has to be built. But it allows what Tarah's talking about is a very like vulnerable, intimate connection. And really what it's doing is it's like, it's a fork in the road at a difficult moment. It's like, do we go the normal route to the right where we just engage in a cognitive
Frontal lobe
argument about whether we use the almond milk or the cow's milk and we stay in the content? Or do we recognize that like, oh, there's this whole other thing that's going on about feelings, about negative core beliefs, about emotional safety within our relationship, within my relationship just with the world. And can we begin to use this awareness of what's happening in your body and what you're communicating non-verbally to get out of the content of what you're arguing about and start looking at like, hey, how do we use this as a tool to be more vulnerable with one another, to be more open, to learn about each other's experience?
Yes. I love the way you just kind of captured all of that. And so I would just encourage everyone listening, like the next time you're feeling feelings, it could be joy. What is that like in my body? It could be anxiety. I mean, really, and you can close your eyes, you can keep them open, whatever feels more comfortable. Closing my eyes for me just really helps me focus on the sensations, but really start to build this somatic skill. It's very powerful. And I now use it in my session almost every time because it's so powerful.
Yeah. I have never met a single person who didn't who when they read The Body Keeps Score, I haven't met a person who wasn't like, that was like, oh, that was BS. Like everybody I've ever talked to who read The Body Keeps Score, they're like, it makes such sense.
Yeah.
We are physical beings having emotional experiences all day long, and it all moves into our body. And so that's also just a great piece of a resource of go out, read that book, talk to your partner about it. You know, it's, for us, it's definitely been something that's helped us in our relationship, is like beginning to become aware, like what's happening in my body? What am I communicating to Tarah? What am I unaware of that is happening in my body? And how do we bring that as a piece of our dialogue between one another, in order to bring us closer together instead of staying ignorant to it and sort of pulling ourselves apart.
And again, if you start to practice this and it has profound results, which it has for many, we want to hear that. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear the successes. We want to hear that you're using these resources, skills that we're talking about, and it's actually benefiting you as an individual and in your partnership. So please reach out and let us know how it changed things. It gives us the ability to communicate that to all of our other listeners too. Like, oh, this actually is not just bullshit. Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
And share it. You know, if this is something that you're like connecting with and you have a friend, your partner, a family member, if you're like, hey, you got to check out this podcast, this talking about like how much is going on internally, physically for ourselves that we're communicating to the world that we're not even aware of, like, please go ahead and share this with people. It's just, that's our true goal at the end of the day, more so than anything, is like, how do we support individuals in lessening their suffering, in feeling more connected in their partnership with their favorite other person in the world. It's a great thing to do. We know we feel a lot better in this world through doing this work together and supporting tons and tons of couples in doing it.
So thank you for listening. Be aware of your body sensations, that body language, and take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.
If you like today's episode, please subscribe to our channel and hit us with a like.